Welcome to Athar's Garage. In this video, I'll be working on the Serpent SRX8 GTe long wheelbase. So let's get started. We've got bag one and the chassis, and we're gonna go ahead and do the rear assembly. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start with the control arms. I'm gonna do one side and then we'll move on to the other side. So I'm gonna do the right hand side rear first. So let's go ahead and get that started. So it looks like it's still kind of on the parts tree. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this off. We're gonna need one of these cups. Go ahead and open these bags up. We need one of those ball stud looking things on the rod ends. Looks like these are all the M2.5 by 6 screws. So I'm just going to go ahead and put them down right here. And then we're also going to need this little collar for the anti-roll bar. So if you look closely on the control arm, it actually has an R and an L, showing you that they are directional. So in step 7.1, it shows a screw that goes in from the bottom. Through this hole here. But it doesn't say what size screw that it is or the length. So I'm gonna have to do a guess here. And from the hardware, it looks like these brownish colored screws are the ones that we have to use. So I don't know what size they are. But they look like they're size M4, and they fit a 2.5 hex, and there's only 2 of them in the kit, so that's probably what you're gonna need. And it doesn't give any type of indication on how much to put it in. I'm assuming these might be the droop screws. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and install it in all the way. It looks like it probably is a droop screw because you can actually put a hex wrench on this side as well. So that's kind of nice. You can adjust it from the top. All right. Now we can put together our anti-roll bar link. Just gonna take some of this flashing off real quick. So looks like the way that it's gonna install is gonna be, you wanna drop your little ball end in and then screw down this anti-roll bar cap until there's no play, and make sure the ball moves freely. just using my shock pliers to tighten it down a little bit at a time. Okay, so it's a bit too tight. You can see it doesn't really move that freely. It kind of gets stuck, so I'm going to go ahead and loosen it just a little bit until it moves freely under its own weight. Okay, and there we go. Let's go ahead and install this ball end into this rod end, and then we can hold back up using a 2.5mm and install the rod end. And there is a length for the anti-roll bar rod length. It's going to be 34mm from the bottom of the control arm to the top of the rod end. So let's go ahead and measure that. Kind of hard to measure it, but I'm at 33.3, so I'm going to go ahead and back this off a little bit. I'm right at 34. All right, now we can move on to installing the control arm inserts. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim these real quick. And it looks, they're not identical, so you're gonna need one of each. You can see that this one has a little divot in it and this one doesn't. So there's definitely a set. And this one goes on the bottom like so. And the other one goes on the top like so. And we're going to use the M2.5x6 screws, which are a 1.5mm. So I'm going to go ahead and use my electric drill to make my life easier. Then go back and tighten by hand. Let's do the other side. So we've got one done. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other one and speed it up so y'all don't have to wait. All right, so now with the control arms ready, we can move on to step 8, which is actually putting the block onto the chassis. And then from there, we can go ahead and put the control arms on. So we have our chassis, and from the looks of it, the rear end is going to be this section here. So the front end has this interesting geometry here with these little wings, and then on the back the wings are a different shape, more triangular. So this is the rear. It's kind of cool that they have a cutout to be able to lower that diff. All right, so So I'll try to do it backwards so y'all can see. So we're going to need the rear block where the inserts are going to be up and down, and then the insert that goes in the rear, the inserts are going to be going left to right. So it's kind of a good way to see that. So we're going to need this block, we're going to need this aluminum spacer, which is going to go there. We're also going to need 2 M4x12 flathead screws, which we're going to apply some blue Loctite to. And the kit setup is the number 1 pill, so we can find those. All right, so here's my number 1 pills. So there you go, the number 1 pills. And they're just gonna go ahead and install like so. Do you like the fit and finish of those? What's nice is that you can actually see the number 1 through these little holes right here, so you know what you're running. Okay, so these 2 nubs are going to go into these 2 holes, and then we're going to install the 2 M4x12 screws from the bottom. So let's get these screws ready. And it's a 2.5 hex driver. We can go ahead and get them both started, and then we can tighten it down. And now we have our hinge pins, which we can install, and they seem like they're magnetic. Yeah, that's interesting. So we need our hinge pins. We're going to need 2 M4x12 screws. And we're going to need our rear block with the number 3 toe insert. And the rear inserts have a different shape to them. They're oval, so take note of that. All right, got my number 3 inserts. And what's nice about the rear insert is that there is a little nub or locating piece, so you can only install it one way. So you can see that little nub installs right here. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab my drill and I'm going to polish these up with some Neverdull to get it nice and smooth. And hopefully it's just something I do personally for myself, to know that I've done everything I can to make sure that the car is going to run as smooth as possible. So now we can go ahead and install our control arms onto the chassis. So I'm going to go ahead and insert So actually doing all that polishing isn't going to make any difference, because it actually is, the hinge pin is firm fitting or tight fitting in the control arm itself, and I'm assuming it's going to be nice and free in the pills. That's going to be the pivot point, so you don't have to go through that extra step, but I like to do that anyway. Okay, so hinge pins are installed. Go ahead and insert that, and then the rear block will install in these two holes. The nubs will install in these two holes, and the screws will install in these two holes. And since these screws are going into aluminum, we're gonna go ahead and apply some blue Loctite. Everything moves nice and smooth under its own weight. That's what we like. Now we can install looks like the Diff Mount, which are going to be these two aluminum pieces. And we're going to install these using the last two M4x12 flathead screws that we have. So we're going to go ahead and apply some Loctite onto those. And the way these are going to install is actually just like this. So these two pieces here are going to be facing each other. This is going to be facing the rear, because you're going to be able to install the differential itself from the rear. And the screws are going to install in these two holes here and here. So let's go ahead and install this first side. So there we go. So that concludes bag 1, the rear assembly. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you did. Please let me know down in the comments if you had any issues. I didn't seem to have any issues, besides the fact that these screws for it looks like a limit screw of some sort, wasn't labeled and wasn't clearly marked or shown as to what screw it was, but they're the only two screws that were odd in the bag, so I assumed it was those. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for the next video, which is bag 2, which is a continuation of the rear assembly.